Pokémon Legends ZA comes out in a few days, and with it comes a set of starters that aren't originally from Kalos. For whatever reason, I decided to change that and brought these starters back to this new game's predecessor to see if they could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke. This means I'll only have 3 Pokemon, and with those rules, if any of them faint, they'll be gone permanently. Yeah, this is gonna be a rough one. The first thing I do after being concussed by this fletchling is pick a starter. I'll be receiving another ZA starter after the first gym, so I've got to make a good decision on who I want first. Originally, I thought Fire beat Bug, but this didn't exactly work the way I'd hoped. I named Tepic Alvin, then said bye to my mom, as this is probably the last time I'll ever see her. The Pokemon universe is so strange. Past Sandalwood Forest is the city, and this place is a clothes shop, which, yes please. Sadly, the options here are pretty pitiful. I hope Legends ZA has a lot more than this logo cap. After leaving there with a beanie and stealing some skates off this rollerblader, I walk into the first gym and challenge Viola. Sadly, the strategy I mentioned earlier doesn't really work in this fight at all. Viola's first Pokemon is a Surskit who has access to both Water Spore and Bubble. These moves in tandem make it so I can't deal much damage, but I do take a ton. My poor Piggy wasn't able to survive an onslaught of bubbles, so I was forced to rethink my plan. With that, I need to restart the game, but this gives me the opportunity to pick a new starter. Totodile learns the move Rage, which is usually something you'd get rid of as soon as you can, but it actually gets some really important usage in the fight. When Viola sends in her Pokemon, I start with my new move, which makes it so anytime I take damage, my Rage will start to build. This is synonymous with an attack increase, and since Surskit can't do too much damage, I'm able to raise myself to +4 going into the final Pokemon. Having just learned the move Bite, I can go for it twice to finish off the Ace Vivillon, earning me my first badge. Before getting my next starter, I wanted to let you guys know about a new game that was literally announced today. Elestrals Awakened is a new Kickstarter campaign running from October 14th to November 7th. The brand itself was founded back in 2022 by adrive, a fellow Pokemon content creator with over 2 million followers. Shady Penguin has also joined Elestrals as the RPG's creative director, and together they have over 40 years of experience in this genre. Elestrals Awakened establishes the tones and themes of the universe, connecting directly back to the TCG as well as future projects. Backing it now is the only chance to obtain alpha and beta access, receive exclusive in-game unlocks, purchase exclusive Kickstarter promo packs, and become an NPC or caster in the game. Don't wait, as Elestrals gives you the chance to bond with one of 8 elemental spirits, my favorite of which is fire, but there's also water, earth, thunder, wind, frost, solar, and lunar. The game is set in ancient Greek mythology and allows you to uncover the mysteries of the Titan War and challenge divines such as Zeus and Poseidon. There's over 100 Elestrals for you to find and tons of different ways to use them. Seriously, do not miss out and make sure you check out the Elestrals Awakened Kickstarter campaign. Remember, it's only out for a limited time, so get there while you can. Huge thanks to adrive and the entire Elestrals team, and with that, I'm ready to get my next starter. Tepic gets the same nickname as before, and with a docile nature, he's pretty well balanced. As I head into Lumio City, I get the TM for Return, which is going to be insanely important later. For now, I bask in the glory of this new city, as it's the location for Legends ZA. They're probably going to expand upon it in a multitude of different ways, but I really just hope the wild areas are cool. Before getting into my battle against Professor Sycamore, I decide to evolve my Totodile and Tepic. Thankfully, he's only got his team of Kanto starters, and these guys are no match for my ZA team. I totally didn't just win this because my Pokemon are evolved. In a random Pokemon Center, I found a bunch of really good TMs, though I can't buy a single one of them as they're way out of my price range. I'll be sure to come back here as soon as I have the money, as Swords Dance could end up being pivotal in some difficult late game battles. Speaking of those, this is where I meet Lysander and Diantha, and both of these trainers have Mega Evolutions that I'm terrified of. Just their presence alone scares me out of Lumiose and onto Route 5, where I get sniffed by this Lucario. In the next town, I figure out we need the Pokeflute, because I guess we can't just walk around this Snorlax. I feel like he's not taking up the entire bridge. But what do I know? I go to Perfum Palace where I have to pay a fee to get in. How am I ever gonna buy these TMs? This was where me and Shauna helped this billionaire find his Furfrou, and in return, he gave us a fireworks show in the daytime. Yay. We also got our grubby hands on the Pokeflute, so I was able to toss this Snorlax in the river and continue on my journey. After a swift double battle with my rivals, I make it to Amber Town where I get the TM for Rock Smash, and this will be pretty pretty useful for Grant's fight. I also meet this girl who says she really wants to see a fast Pokemon, but unfortunately, I'll never be able to show her one. The downside of this starter trio is that none of them are fast, like even a little bit. When your fastest final evolution is Meganium, you have a problem. In the end, I'll just have to hope that general bulk is enough to mitigate the problems that causes. In Glittering Cave, I meet Team Flare, and these guys aren't difficult to deal with. Pretty happy about that, as it means I can quickly head over to Silage City, which is the location of the next gym. Grant specializes in rock types, so I start with my Pignite, as he should be able to do pretty well against those. He leads with Amora, who's quad weak to Rock Smash, so I go for that to take the easy Oko. Tyrunt's a little more tricky, as he's bulkier and survives with a little over half and connects with a Rock Tomb that lowers my speed by a stage. He takes advantage of that speed drop by going for a not very effective bite, as I connect 4 times with Arm Thrust, and this earns me my second badge. I don't really know what he was thinking there, but who am I to complain about an easy gym? Following all that, I obtain my third Pokemon, Theodore the Chikorita. Not sure if you guys recognize the nickname theme, but if you do, leave it in the comments down below. I immediately evolve him into a Bayleaf, though he won't have much of a starting role until later. With that, my team is complete, and now I really have to worry about not losing any of them. That's not something I have to fear against Team Flare, as I chase them all the way to Geosenge Town, where they just disappear. In this place, I meet Corinna, who's a trainer I'm gonna have to watch out for. In our first battle, she has 2 Lucarios with Power Up Punch and Swords Dance. To make matters worse, I went into the battle while it was raining, so I could barely use my fire moves. I just barely got through it, and I'm really not excited for the next battle against Corinna, as she'll be a gym leader. Either way, my next stop is Reflection Cave, but to be honest, there really isn't much for me to do here. I guess I get the TM for Flash, but I'm not gonna use it even once. Finally, out of that place, I find myself in Shallower City, where Tierno gives me an intriguing stone, and I take it all the way to the Tower of Mastery. They won't let me lie about how I got it, then I'm forced into a rival battle, which is really annoying. Throughout this run, Serena's team is going to be getting increasingly stronger. Thankfully, they're not too difficult right now, as my Pignite's a good counter, but they will be soon. Eventually, I'll need to come up with a solid counter for her, but for now, I've got to focus on my third gym. Corinna's a fighting expert with a Hawlucha at the end of her team, so to counter that, I decide to evolve 2 of my Pokemon, getting a Meganium and Feraligatr. With Pignite's later evolution, he won't be able to evolve for this fight, though it shouldn't be much of an issue as my Feraligatr is really solid. Corinna leads the battle with Mienfoo and starts with a fake out, flinching me on the first turn. This was where Return came in handy, as with my Happiness maxed, it has 102 base power. It immediately brought her into the red, forcing Corinna to waste all her Hyper Potions. This led me on to the Ace Hawlucha, who's faster than me by a long shot and starts with Hone Claws as I went for a return. Unfortunately, it didn't even do a third, and with Hawlucha's attack increase, she goes for a Flying Press that does a ton of damage. I knew something like that would happen, so I had a Citrus Berry equipped, and it brought me back up to 75. This was when I landed my second attack, bringing Hawlucha to a 4th, and after another Flying Press and return combo, I was able to move on to the last Pokemon, Machoke. One move lands him at half, then he got a critical hit that brought me down to 10 HP. Thankfully, I'm a decent bit faster than him, so with one more move, I earned my third badge. Now that that's been acquired, I head back to the Tower of Mastery, where I've got one more battle against Corinna. She gives me a Mega Bracelet, which isn't useful for this game as none of my starters can currently Mega Evolve, but fingers crossed for Legend ZA. I beat her with her own Lucario, which has gotta be embarrassing. As I progressed, I got the HM for Surf, which is really bad. Typically, a 90 base power move is something I'd be happy to receive, though Surf is an HM. This means when I teach it to Feraligatr, he has one less move slot, and that's not too great. At some point, I'll be able to get rid of it through the move deleter, but it's essential to get through Victory Road, so no matter what, I'm gonna have to have it for the Elite Four. Definitely not something I'm excited for, though there's not really much I can do about it, so I just head into the next city where my rival informs me we'll be having a battle soon. We ended up fighting right outside of the 4th gym, though this one was actually easier than the previous, as now I have 2 final evolutions on my team. Ramos is the next gym leader, and he specializes in grass types, which would normally be food for my fire starter. Sadly, with the current level cap, my Pignite still can't evolve into Emboar, and these grass types have a surplus of super effective moves. To avoid those, I led with Feraligatr, who got hit by Acrobatics, then was able to get off an Ice Fang that was 4 times super effective. This took an easy Oko, which brought out Weepin' Bell, so I swapped into my Pignite. With nothing super effective to worry about, I was able to take him down with a handful of flame charges. Last out is the Ace Go-Goat, who's got Bulldoze, so I sent out my grass starter, Meganium. Go-Goat can't do too much damage to me, and anything I do take is just healed off by Synthesis. About a dozen returns later, I can start moving towards the 5th gym, and this involves me going through a massive desert where I find a power plant pass. Apparently, this is where Team Flare has been practicing their terrible knock-knock jokes, so I put a stop to them because nobody wants to hear that. This poor guy was so scared of them that he ended up getting stuck while trying to hide, and that's really funny. With the level cap increased, I can finally evolve Pignite into Emboar, and this guy helps a lot against these Team Flare members. Especially this last one, who has a dark type that's over the current level cap. With all that done, I meet AZ, then head back into Lumio City. After powering up Prism Tower, I go ahead and explore the area where I find these lotto tickets, and I'm a gambling man, so I lose money. That's kind of just how it goes. Hopefully Legend ZA makes this area a lot more diverse, as there's a few too many corridors that lead to literally nothing. Before challenging Clement, I decide to go back to the TM shop from earlier, where I can now finally buy some useful stuff. Nothing that helps too much in this next gym, but later on it definitely will. Leading the fight against the 5th gym's electric types, I send out my water type for Alligator. This was actually strategic, as I know Emolga's gonna go for a Volt Switch, so I immediately move out into Emboar. With Emolga having already gone for Volt Switch, he can't stay in and attack with Aerial Ace. Emboar's also super effective against both of Clement's other 2 Pokemon, and when Magneton gets sent in, I can go for Power Up Punch. This move was the TM I got from Corinna and will allow me to increase my attack stat. After tanking a Thunderbolt, leaving me with 27 remaining, Magneton is in the red, so I know he's probably gonna get healed. I take this opportunity to further raise my stats, increasing my speed by a few stages with Flame Charge. Eventually, after Magneton was taken down, I was faster and stronger than all of Clement's remaining Pokemon. With Heat Crash, I get rid of both Emolga and Heliolisk, and that earns me my 5th badge. I've got a ton of tricky battles coming soon, specifically my ones against Lysander that'll happen after the 7th gym. Speaking of Lysander, I go to his cafe where I find these 2 girls that are absolutely obsessed with him. One of them is saving $5 million for him. That's insane. Getting away from those crazy people as soon as possible, I find myself in another rival battle with Serena. Her lead remains the same as Meowstic goes down to a pair of crunches, but next out is Chestnut, who's a new Pokemon. This tank is going to be annoying to deal with. For now, I can just swap into Emboar and go for a Power Up Punch and Flame Charge, though it'll become more difficult to do that as we progress. With a couple more attacks, I finish off our team and can move towards the Scary House. This is where I'm told an awful scary story, and I even have to tip the guy for it. That does actually remind me that I have a tip for you guys, and it's to get ready for this Cobblemon server. It's going to be members only, and I'm looking to have it up by later this month, so if you have anything you want to add to it, whether that be data packs, extra Cobblemon mods, things like that, just let me know. Also gonna make a Discord server for it, and that'll be up later this month too. All that aside, it's time for me to go into Laver City, where I speak with a few of the residents, and they're weird. Some are way too obsessed with big Pokemon, and others, are just strange. Hopefully my battle against Valerie doesn't end up being that way, as she leads with Mawile and I send out my Feraligatr. I started the battle with a Swords Dance to bring my attack to +2, as Mawile went for a crunch, not doing too much. I then started to go for Surfs, and after 1, I left her in the red, and this caused her to heal. I didn't need another crit to finish her off with 2 more, and this led into Mr. Mime. She started with a Reflect to make my physical attacks deal less damage, so when I went for a crunch, she lived at about half. I guess we were speed tied, as I moved before her on the next turn, getting a KO with Crunch, leading into the final Pokemon, Sylveon. With the Reflect, this ace is really tanky, so Return only does about a third, as I get hit by a Dazzling Gleam that takes me down to 70. That means even if I get crit, I should be able to survive 1 more, and I do at 1 HP. That was absolutely terrifying. She healed with a Hyper Potion as I landed another Return, and then Reflect went down. This meant I could take her down with 1 more, and I ended up getting a crit for good measure. As soon as I leave the gym, I find out Team Flare is ransacking the Pokeball factory, so I head over there to save the balls? I don't know why I'm here. I do the best I can to deal with them and eventually get a big nugget for my efforts. This was definitely worth it. In the next city, I'm informed that I need to go to Frost Cavern because it's a cool place to be, I guess. In reality, there's just more Team Flare, so I blow through the rest of their ranks so I can head over to Anastar. Just before I get there, my rival informs me that we're gonna fight again soon, and I'm not really too happy about that. That last gym battle really scared me, and it made me realize my team needs to be a whole lot stronger. Thankfully, there's still a way I can make that happen, and it's by super training to gather EVs. These EVs stand for effort values, and the more I get, the stronger my Pokemon become. Once I get as many of those as I can on all my Pokemon, I battle Serena, Serena, and she leads with Meowstic. She falls the same way she usually does to Feraligatr, as next out is Chestnut. In this game, he doesn't have a Mega Evolution, though he's still a little difficult to deal with how tanky he is. Luckily, my Emboar just barely does half with Flame Charge, so 2 are able to take him down. The rest of her team falls to Theodore and Petal Dance, so now I can head into the 7th gym. Olympia leads with her Sigilif as I send out Simon and start by going for a pair of Swords Dances. During that process, she set up a Reflect and also hit me with a Psychic, but neither of those two things do that much. Crunch is still able to Oko Sigilif, Slowking, and the Ace Meowstic. That earns me my 7th badge and places me one step closer to Lysander. On my way to him, I stop by his cafe, and this is where I meet some really hostile employees. I mean, this one guy says today's special is get out of here or else, and that's just rude. I don't listen to his advice as I progress into my first battle with Lysander. This isn't too bad as his lead Pokemon isn't very strong, so I can freely set up an Agility and Swords Dance. With that, I can pretty easily take care of the rest of his team, then he runs away, and I have to go through this massive Team Flare base. Eventually, I steal an elevator key, and once he goes downstairs, I listen to the entire story of AZ. I hope this is part of the Legend ZA story as well, because it's actually pretty cool. Especially all this ultimate weapon stuff. I mean, Team Flare turned this on. It totally wasn't me pressing the wrong button. Sorry to everyone in Geocinch Down. Battle number 2 against Lysander was similar to the last, as I set up a pair of Swords Dances right away. This allowed me to one-shot his entire team, and once I made it to the bottom, I found Yveltal, who, unfortunately, I have to catch. Even worse, in this 3rd battle, I'm forced to lead with Yveltal, so I can't do anything I wanted to do. I ended up just chucking Pokeballs until Mienshao took me down, but this could have gone really poorly if he decided to set up a single Swords Dance. By the time I was able to get my free switch, I brought up Feraligatr, and since we were on equal footing, we decided to set up. Thanks to the EVs I gathered earlier, I'm able to outspeed in one shot, and this brings out the next Pokemon, Pyroar. He's a lot more bulky than Mienshao, so I'm forced to set up a second Swords Dance in order to Oko. During that, I was hit by a Hyper Voice, and after going for 2 consecutive returns, I could move on to the final Pokemon, Gyarados. Intimidate lowers my attack by a stage, and then he Mega Evolves. I connect with a return that leaves him in the red. I should be able to survive anything he hits me with so long as I don't get crit, and thankfully I don't. This means I can go for one more attack, and with that, I've defeated Team Flare. Now we're getting further into the latter half of the game where I have one more gym and the Elite Four. Before I can get my last badge, I've got to go through all my rivals. I'm not gonna lie, this was incredibly irritating. These guys should really just stick to their other hobbies, because Pokemon battling obviously isn't for them. I say that, but Trevor's Aerodactyl definitely gave me a run for my money. Either way, we made it through so we can go to Snowbell City and the Pokemon Village. This was where I sent Wolfric back to his gym because he's got a job to do and I have badges to get. He's an Ice-type leader, so this battle is basically free. He led with Abomasnow, who immediately got one-shotted by a quad-effective Flame Charge. Next was Cryogonal, who was melted, and this left only Avalugg. Even though Avalug's defense stat is insanely high, it doesn't really matter when I can just spam Power-Up Punch. With my attack continuing to increase and a lucky critical hit, I was able to earn my final gym badge. Last is the Elite Four, but before I get there, I decided to go through a whole wardrobe change. Now I look really weird. I really hope Legend ZA has better clothes than this. To get through this game's victory road, there are 2 TMs required, that being Surf and Strength. Surf goes on my Feraligatr, Strength on my Emboar, and hopefully I don't need to learn any moves while I'm in the Elite Four. Just before walking into the Pokemon League, I get into my final rival battle against Serena. My Feraligator's got a sizable level lead against most of her team, so I can freely set up at the start of the fight to one-shot her entire team. I really wish the Elite Four was going to be this easy. My 2 biggest worries are Drasna and Diantha, though everybody could end up being a problem. Drasna's dragons are able to resist most of the moves I have, so I somehow gotta come up with a plan for her and the entire Elite Four. Once I think I got something solid, I get my team up to the level cap and step inside. Looking around, I head into what's probably my easiest matchup against Malva. She leads with Pyroar as I send in Feraligatr and start by going for a super effective Waterfall. Thanks to my high attack stat, this takes the Oko and brings out the next Pokemon, Talonflame. She is way faster than I am and is able to get off a Brave Bird, taking me down to 124 as I then go for a Waterfall that finishes her off. All that brought out Malva's second to last Torkoal, who got hit by a Surf, bringing her a little below half, then connected with an Earthquake that brought me down to 79. Knowing that Torkoal's physical defense is really high, I elect to continue to go for Surf as Malva heals with a full restore. That being said, 2 more brings me on to the final Pokemon, Chandelure. With help from my speed EVs, I go first, connecting with a Waterfall that wins me my first Elite Four battle. Next, I go into what I think is my second easiest matchup against Wickstrom. He represents Steel types and leads with his Klefki as I send out my Emboar. Klefki's got the ability Prankster, so he moves before me and goes for a pair of Spikes, likes as I go for a power-up punch and flame charge combo. This raises my attack and speed by a stage going into the next Pokemon Probopass. Immediately, I went for a 4-time super effective fighting move that got a critical hit and brought him down to 1 HP. I was then force-fed an Earth Power that lowered my special defense, but it doesn't matter too much as now that Probopass starts healing, I can slowly dwindle down his HP using power-up punch and flame charge. Doing this increases my stats and helps a lot against the ace Pokemon Aegislash. On the first turn, he correctly predicts an attacking move going for a King Shield, and this causes me to lower my own attack stat. Sadly, that means with another flame charge, I'm not able to take the KO. Now I've got to tank a Shadow Claw that definitely had the potential to take me down. Surviving in the red, I finish him off with another flame charge and do the same with the final Pokemon Scizor. 2 down and 2 to go. We've still got Drasna, who is absolutely terrifying. Because my goal is to avoid her as much as possible, I elect to go fight Seabold. He's a water type trainer and starts with Clawitzer as I send out for Alligator. Barring a crit, I should be able to survive 2 Dragon Pulses, which means I can freely get off a Swords Dance on the first turn. In order to one-shot his entire team, I need to set up 2 of them, so I just have to cross my fingers and hope I don't get crit. Dragon Pulse comes through, and thankfully I don't. That means at +4, I can one-shot and move on to Gyarados. His ability Intimidate is the reason I needed to set up so much, as at +3, I can just barely take him out. Crabominable suffers the same fate, but unfortunately I can't say the same about Starmie, as I'm pretty sure he outspeeds. To be safe, I've got to bring in Meganium and go for a Petal Dance, which eventually takes him down. That being said, all this does is bring me one step closer to Drasna, whose team is incredibly threatening. Just before the Elite Four, I made sure to get the TM for Dragon Claw so I could teach that to Feraligatr. A super effective move should go a long way, but it doesn't really against the first Pokemon Dialga. Before bringing in Feraligatr, I send out Meganium and start by setting up a Light Screen and Reflect. Sadly, this didn't go perfectly, as my Meganium took a ton of damage and got poisoned. Without a proper way to switch in, I was forced to sacrifice Theodore. Using the free switch, I brought up Feraligatr and went for a Dragon Claw that brought Dialga into healing range. Thankfully, I didn't get paralyzed by Thunderbolt, and after a few heals, I set up a Swords Dance to finally finish her off. This also allowed me to go through the next Pokemon Altaria, but Noivern outspeeds me by a long shot and was able to connect with Dragon Pulse before going down. Last up is Dredagon, but since she's pretty slow, I can win the battle without any further casualties. With 2 Mons remaining and the rest of the run behind us, I go ahead and challenge the champion, Diantha. She leads with the speedy Hawlucha as I send out Feraligatr, and we both start out by going for Swords Dance. On the next turn, Hawlucha moves before me and connects with a Flying Press that gets a critical hit and takes me down to 75 remaining. Definitely not ideal, but I can still one-shot with a Waterfall, and this brings out the next Pokemon, Aurorus. Another Waterfall and Gourgeist is in, but unfortunately, I don't have any good answers. I could have swapped into Emboar, but risking getting crit by Shadow Ball didn't seem very ideal. So instead, I stood my ground, got off a Dragon Claw that did about half, then got taken down by a critical hit Seed Bomb. With the free switch, I sent out my last Pokemon, Emboar, who was able to take out Gourgeist with a Flame Charge, raising my speed by a stage going into Tyrantrum. Emboar's got super effective Power-Up Punch, though after one of them, I don't even do half. I was then nailed by a Head Smash that took me down to 79, but Tyrantrum was also taken into healing range. Diantha heals, but honestly, this isn't a bad thing, as I was able to get off 2 more Power-Up Punches, further raising my attack to +3. Being this powerful means that even though Goodra's incredibly tanky, I can still take the one-shot, and now all I have to do is hope I can outspeed the final Pokemon Gardevoir. After Mega Evolving, I thankfully outspeed, getting off a Heat Crash, which is more than enough to take the Oko. That ended up winning me this run, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys think about the Cobblemon server, and get ready for some Legends ZA content as it's coming soon. I hope you're as excited about that game as I am. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.